An inverse Wizard of Oz, where a girl from a fantasy wakes up in a realistic world after a tornado hits her home. A girl walks in the middle of a rural highway, a long asphalt snake cutting its way through what appears to be infinite rows of corn. Follow the yellow brick road, she hums to herself. She'd sing, but her throat is parched. The sun is hot, beating down in the oppressive way only a late summer sun can. The girl ties a strip of cloth around her neck which throbs already with oncoming sunburn, vaguely recalling stories from the wizard's library. Exposure can be a terrible thing. It doesn't kill quick like that bitch of a witch, it kills slow and deliberate. What had she been asking the wizard about? Foreign lands and lost worlds? The kind of questions a curious girl always seems to spew, until the adults around her decide she's asked enough questions and needs to simply do what she's told. Yes sirs and no ma'ams and dainty glasses and too little fancy food on fine china. If you managed to stop and ask the girl what happened to her, she'd tell you something came blustering through the city with the force of 1,000 trains thundering through the sky. A funnel so dark to border on black making its way through a suddenly darkened patchwork of swollen dark clouds, bellies full of rain and hail. Next thing she knew, she lay on the side of this strange road, made from something that wasn't cobblestone, but something else entirely. She barely remembers being sucked into the funnel, and the terror that came through being battered about by wind and debris. Voices on the wind, mocking and cold. But you know how it goes, it's not a real tornado made from Mexican warm air meeting Canadian cold. One of the witches must have sent it or something. Random things just don't happen to people. It all has a purpose. So she follows that rule hammered into the children of her world. If you're ever lost, always remember you can follow the yellow brick road. So she followed the black road, tinged with a pair of yellow lines in the center that had long faded from their original canary yellow. If you asked the girl where she was, she wouldn't be able to tell you. If you asked someone from that particular corny patch of the American Midwest, they'd tell you not to expect any traffic on that stretch of road. Back in the day, a rather prominent farmer owned the majority of those acres and had a pretty cozy deal with the government to grow a certain quota of corn every so often. The farmer's father had run that farmstead, and so had his father's father. Proud heritage, proud work ethic. Strong men who worked with their hands from dawn till dusk. Until his son decided he liked a particular dancer from a certain club where the clothing is optional and tipping is always preferred and ran off with most of his father's life savings. Then the father himself realized that sounded like a mighty fine idea, that this farm was too much goddamn work, and left his wife for a drifting woman with dirty blonde hair and a one-story house somewhere in Florida. The woman tried to maintain the farm the best she could, but the times were a-changing and agriculture required far more technical and collegiate expertise to remain competitive in a world that increasingly saw their profession as a simplistic relic. Not understanding the real difficulties, financial and otherwise, of surviving in the modern agricultural world. So the woman got a disease in the gut, laid up in the house, and never got a single visit from her son who ended up leaving his first wife for a younger woman with even more tattoos. Her dying thoughts, sons of bitches, both of them. The girl hunched rather than walked her way down this highway, unaware that the farmstead was 60 miles to her west, and the next sign of civilization was about 100 miles to her east. She pants quietly, her tongue swelling up from the thirst and heat. The improvised head and neck cloth sticks to her skin, soaked with sweat. Still the sun beats, joyful and cruel. An ancient billboard looms in the distance with the words "Only Jesus Saves" scrawled on them, featuring a portrait of a man with long brown hair and a stern temperament. The man on the billboard scares her. This isn't a loving man, or a kind man. It's the apathetic coldness of an authority figure. It's her father telling her to do what she's told, where her desires are waved aside as inconsequential. That man doesn't listen or empathize, but coldly judges, inflexible and final. The girl thinks she hears things rustle in the corn, and decides she may as well try to catch some sleep in whatever shade she can find. Even then, the emptiness of this world itches at her mind. Maybe the entire world consists entirely of corn. She pushes that thought aside. After all, someone must come by to check out these crops. Someone must be somewhere, and if they found her they'd help her. They have too. Her dreams are senseless, mostly of thick rain and soft clouds. Welcoming rolling fields of cotton candy. The girl doesn't understand the vastness of the countryside she's just wandered into, nor would she be capable of understanding the language of those around here. If a car managed to find its way on that lonely road, she'd more likely cower in fear in one of the ditches on either shoulder. Besides, this is the kind of highway you don't stop on. The kind where you can barely keep yourself from going crazy after going for hours on end through flat, barren country. No matter how fast you go, you can't outrun the sameness of your environment. The kind of screaming emptiness you get when going through the flat scrublands of the Southwest, or the endless highways in Texas that yawn on forever. Even if some lost, kind soul stopped, it'd then be a long, tenuous drive between strangers through endless waves of corn. If they took her to a hospital, a weakened and foreign immune system would pick up 1,000,001 big bad bugs that even modern miracles like antibiotics couldn't quash. Still, she dreams of rain. Of the moon. Of home. Still, she hopes for the best. A dumpy pickup trundles its way down the road, an old man chewing either spit or chaw, he can't exactly tell. What's he doing out here? Well, he'd like to know that too. He can't stand the empty house anymore, and decided to go on a long drive. The kind Dorothy and him had done in their youth, when the skin didn't hang loose on your face and the bones ached before the rain came. He sees a limp form on the side of the road, sprawled unhealthily in the dry soil. A girl. Now what in the hell would she be doing out here? No car, no nothing. Ain't gonna find shit out here. The man talks to himself the way old men do, debating with himself. Shit fire, Dorothy'd chew my ear off if I don't stop and help her. Ain't nothing out here but corn. Corn, corn, corn. Too much fucking corn. He pulls to the side of the road, getting out and carefully dropping out. Well, she sure as shit ain't dead. Wearing funny clothes too. The girl continues to dream, too weak to respond to the world around her. Fitful and dry moans filter outward as her chest rises and falls. Managing to get the girl into his pickup, he turns around and heads towards civilization. Wherever that might be.